Hi everyone, welcome to this Kerbal Space Program tutorial. Okay, so in order to get started, the first thing that you need to do is go into Settings, go into the Gameplay section, and turn on the Advanced Tweakables and Show Extended Burn Time Indicator options. Those are super important to make the game much more fun. Then obviously you accept them. After you do that, you can start the game, start a new save. We're obviously going to be playing in sandbox mode. That's usually not the default, so set it to that. Sandbox mode is easier, so it's better for beginners, but easier isn't always less fun. Some people prefer sandbox mode over all the other game modes. There it is too. Then you can pick your flag by clicking here. There we go. So we can start the game, and that you're in the game. You don't actually need to read that. You can click on the vehicle assembly building and start building your rocket. For this video, we're going to assume that you're very new to the game and don't really know much of anything. Okay, so we want to launch a Kerbal, which are the people in this game, somewhere. So we're going to need a crew pod. And then, obviously, we want to bring the Kerbal back. So if you click on the utility option here, you see all this stuff, but you also get a Mark 16 parachute, which you can put on your crew pod. You click on it, and drag it, and then move your mouse over until you get to this green thing, and then it turns green. You can click on it. Then obviously, you also need an engine. You just do the same thing, get it to the green node, and then put it there. And then over on the right side of the screen, over here, you see two things. Two pictures in like an orange thingy. This is our staging icon. These will both happen at the same time, which is bad because you don't want your engine and your parachute triggering at the same time. So you click this plus button to add a new stage, then drag the engine icon into this new stage. So now the engine will fire here, and then the parachute will fire afterwards. And you can click the launch button. Once you're on the launch pad, you're going to want to click T to engage the Stability Augmentation System, or SAS. That basically just helps you point in a straighter line, and then you activate your engine by clicking the spacebar. The spacebar will go to the next stage in this stage. The engine is our next stage. So you click on it, and you start going up at insanely high speeds. Notice how the throttle is still at 0, because these engines just ignore all of your throttle settings. They're solid rocket boosters. So if you ever see something that says like a solid fuel, then that refers to these. And obviously, we're going to go up. And up until we run out of fuel. And we might burn up. Oh well. I haven't tested this before. So, these gauges over here, those are temperature gauges. That means they're getting kind of hot. And so, on your keyboard, there should be greater and then and less than symbols. You can click on those to make time go faster. See, we're going up. And we might actually make it to space. Yeah, space is 70 kilometers up. See? So we made it into space on our first try with Jebediah Kerman. He's probably going to die on the way back down, because this is not the best trajectory. But that's fine. Hopefully. So see, this is our arc, and then AP represents our highest point, or apoapsis. And then you can see the time and its height, and we're almost up there. You can also click on this purple button to see all that information without going to the map screen. Oh, and I went to the map screen using the M key, just in case you were wondering. So we click space so that the parachute will automatically deploy as soon as possible. Then we can just keep going back down. Oops, wrong key. And then outside of the atmosphere, you can use non-physical time warp, so time can go much faster outside of the atmosphere if you really want it to. See, our speed is still going up, and we're getting awfully close to the ground. And now we're pointing straight down. See? Okay. So, Jebediah died, obviously. So, if you click the escape key, there's an option that says revert to vehicle assembly building. And so obviously, this rocket needs to be improved. One way that we could do that, so it got kind of toasty, we could add a heat shield. Again, you just click it, drag it on, and I deleted that solid rocket booster by clicking on it and then dragging it off, just in case you couldn't tell. So you go to the coupling section now, and you can get a TD12 decoupler, and then you can drag it over and attach it to the heat shield. When this stage fires, it'll jettison everything that's below it, so we'll only have this capsule, the heat shield, and the parachute after that fires. Obviously, solid rockets didn't work, so we're going to do liquid. So we drag this liquid over here. Then we're going to need a liquid. That was a liquid fuel tank from the fuel tank section. And now we need an engine. We're going to go with the swivel. So, and then you can right-click right here to see the TWR, or thrust to weight ratio. That has to be higher than 1, and it's usually good to have it between 1.5 and 2. Whatever. 2.35. That's okay. See, our staging automatically was correct this time. And then, so we're going to name this one so because it's cool. You can click this to save it, launch it. So we're going to click T, and then we're going to click Z for full throttle, and then we're going to activate the engine. And as soon as we take off, obviously we went too straight up last time, so we're going to need to use the W, A, S, and D keys to point us in a direction like this. See how we can turn? Whoa. And then we can use Q and E to spin our rocket. And we can like slant over. And hopefully not die. This yellow indicator is the prograde marker that represents the direction that we are going in. And see over here, this says prograde. So if we click on this, we'll automatically point in the prograde direction. I know, so cool. We're kind of spinning out of control. And over here, we can click the maneuver mode option to see what our apoapsis is. You remember apoapsis, that's our highest point. And then we can keep going up, because that would probably be a good idea, right? We just had a little oopsie during ascent, but we should be fine. See, we're already like pretty far over from the vehicle assembly building. And we didn't make it into space this time. See, our apoapsis is only 68 kilometers-ish, but it's close enough. No one really cares. So we're going to hold the retrograde option on the nav ball, right, using the retrograde button, and then we're going to jettison the engine stage because it doesn't really do anything anymore. And we've got this heat shield showing. We're descending. There should be flames soon. This is an ablative heat shield, which means it burns off material as it descends, so this number will decrease as it heats up. It didn't heat up at all. that was a completely useless heat shield. Oh well. See, we've got this parachute. It should deploy at about 1,000 meters up. And now we're going to a speed that we can land at. And then we've right-clicked on the heat shield. Now we can click jettison, right? And then our speed goes down because the single parachute has to carry less mass now. And we're splashed down. Okay, now that we've gone into space, we pretty much have an understanding of how this works. You can make a new rocket. We'll call it orbital rocket. And it's going to use this base design, just a little bit bigger. So our first stage, we can take this off. We're going to want to go to fuel tanks, get a new fuel tank, then put a new engine on it. This engine is at a higher stage, so it's going to be in a vacuum. Then vacuums, you need less thrust because you don't have to fight against the air. So we can use a lower thrust engine, like the Terrier. And also it's pushing less weight than the first stage. If you go over to this Delta V tab, you can switch it to a vacuum. You see that in a vacuum, this will have 1.5 thrust to weight ratio, which is what we were shooting for before. Then you can go back to altitude. Then you can detach TD12 decoupler below it, and you can add another fuel tank right here, and that previous first stage. So, on the staging, we're going to want to drag this over here, check its thrust to weight ratio, 1.4, pretty good. Yeah, okay. This should be good. Okay, so like always, stability assist, Z. But now we're going to click this purple button to activate maneuver mode, and that will tell us our apoapsis and periapsis height. Apoapsis is our highest point, and periapsis is our lowest point. Yeah, okay. Then we've got this little engine right here, and we need to fire it up. So, during orbital ascent, we want to keep this little marker here in this green bar by throttling up and down using the shift and control keys. So, we're actually going to start going straight up until we reach an altitude of 1,000 meters. Then we're going to want to start yawing over using the D key until and the goal is to reach an angle of 45 degrees by the time this reaches 10,000. And see, this number it's increasing. That's basically how much work that stage can do, and as we're getting higher up, it gains more and more thrust, so it can do more and more work. And so we're going to throttle back now because that went outside of the green box. And we're going to want to keep an eye on this thrust to weight ratio. Okay, it's above 1. That's good. And now we're going to want to hold 45 degrees until our apoapsis reaches 40 kilometers. And then we're going to start tipping over again. Okay, apoapsis has reached 40 kilometers. So we can start tipping over. As you can see, our altitude is pretty high up. We want to make sure that our time to apoapsis is increasing, because if that's decreasing, that's bad. And I say that as it starts decreasing. Okay, it's increasing again. Now, we're just going to want to keep burning until our apoapsis reaches 75 kilometers, which is like just above the boundary between space and not space. So we can accelerate time using the time warp keys. and then cut out outer engines. Then we would use M to go to the map view and click on the apple-axis. Then click Add Maneuver, and then we would drag out this prograde icon, the one that I'm dragging out now, until we reach a circular orbit. Now we're going to keep going until start burn. This start burn option was added by the extended burn indicator option that we clicked, and we're going to want to wait until that reaches 0. Then we're going to want to click Z for full throttle. Oh great, I cut out my engines earlier using X. Forgot to mention that, the X key. Oops. And we're going to wait until this reaches 0. That's our goal. And once that does, we should be in orbit. So, orbit is the state where you will fall towards the planet Kerbin, then you'll miss it because you're going so fast. As you can see, our speed is like really high, like so fast that our path just like goes around and then it misses. But we are in orbit. We're not in a stable orbit because this PE periapsis marker says we're 44 kilometers. It's 44 kilometers down. And that's not in the atmosphere. So we would just go back down and hit that, and hit the air, and we wouldn't be in orbit anymore. So now we need to add another maneuver at apple-axis, and just drag out on prograde until our periapsis marker and our apple-axis marker are opposite each other. And when that happens, they should be approximately equal to each other. And as we see, they're only 2 kilometers off. Then we can click the maneuver button on the nav ball, and then click right here. And that number is less than that number, so we can click warp here, and then we'll be right next to that maneuver node, and we can perform the burn. We're time warping using the time warp keys. When you're outside of the atmosphere, the default is non-physical time warp, which is faster than physical time warp, but you can't like turn or fire engines while doing non-physical time warp. You can only do that while physical time warping. Outside of the atmosphere, you can use physical time warp by clicking Alt and the time warp keys at the same time. And you can tell if you're in time warp because at the top left it has time warp. Now we're just going to want to go see to demonstrate that we are capable of going around the entire planet. We can time warp around it, and we're in space. Now we can go back to the non-map view, time warp until there's daytime, and look, daytime. So we've got Jebediah Kerman here, and if you hover over his name, you see this thing called EVA. It stands for extravehicular activity. It basically means when you're outside of your vehicle. So you can click space to have him let go. Then you're like, oh no, he can't come back. But if you click R, turns on his jetpack, and he can like fly around. And then right here, you're gonna want to click F5 just in case. If you ever get into a bad situation, you can hold F9 to go back to your previous F5, and you can like fly around with it. Jeb, and you can click U to like turn on his lights, and you, like the entire spacecraft is illuminated. And you can go back, might go to the other side of the spacecraft. I'm moving my perspective using the right click, and then holding and dragging it around. You go forwards using the W key, backwards using S, left and right using A and D respectively, up and down is shift and control. And you turn by right-clicking and holding. And then when you turn your camera, and then when you try to go forwards, it defaults, so it's pointing away from you. Wow. Now you're going to want to go back, obviously. It gets kind of hard, but you can do it. The easiest way, in my opinion, is you can double click on it to target it, and then like a yellow box appears, and then on your nav there's a pink dot thing, and then that's where your target is. So you just, if you just point at it, then just use W to go forwards, then you'll be going towards it. And you want this, the direction that you're going in marker, to be like pointing at it, or pointing near it. So look, it's right on that, so we know we're going to go straight into it. And then we can time warp. And see this number right here? It's decreasing, because we're getting closer. Now we can do the rest by hand. It shouldn't be that hard. Just eyeballing it. And hopefully this is the correct match. Once you get close, you can just start spamming F to grab on. Then you can click B to board. And of course, yeah. So now we're going to want to deorbit. If you didn't get into orbit on your first time, that's like expected, basically. You can just build a bigger rocket with more stages and more fuel and all of those nice things. So, in order to deorbit, you just want to click on your apoapsis, add maneuver again, and we're going to want to get a periapsis of about 40 kilometers by dragging at this retrograde marker. Retrograde is the opposite of the direction that you're going in, so it's the opposite of prograde, which is why it's across from prograde. Yeah. And I overshot. You see over here in the maneuver mode, it says maneuver 1. It tells me my periapsis height, which is how I can do it. If it ever goes below 40, then you can use prograde to undo that, because prograde is the opposite of retrograde. And you can also use the scroll wheel on your maneuver mode node for more accuracy. Oops, where we're going. See, exactly 40 kilometers, basically 40.4 kilometers. That should be good. So we can click the maneuver option on the nav ball. And as you see, it's right next to retrograde, because we're going to be burning retrograde. We can do time warp again. Time warp right next to the maneuver node. Once we get there, we're going to go full thrust using the Z key, and then almost immediately cut off all of our thrust using the X key. See, when that's at 0, we clicked Z, and then when this bar got all the way down to 0, we clicked X. And yeah. And as you can see, it's 37 kilometers, which is still okay, but not what we were aiming for. Now we're going to want to use this button to hold retrograde on the nav ball. Click M. Jettison this engine stage, because we no longer need it. And then time warp until we hit the atmosphere. Then once we get into the atmosphere, we can use physical time warp to make us go faster. Just make sure that you don't run out of electric charge. We have 44.64, so we should be fine. So, again, this is an ablative heat shield. I got its stats by right-clicking on it. As you can see, we've got ablator. And as we go through the atmosphere, the heat will cause the ablator to flake off. As you can see, it already lost one. And then that makes it the heat go away, because the flakes take the heat with it, and then our capsule should be fine. See, you've got like the little flakes burning up. It's pretty nice. Don't even know. Let's grab these. Yeah. And I can move my camera angle by holding right click and like dragging it around, just like how you would in the vehicle assembly. Oh, look, the Kerbal Space Center. We just went over. See, it's right there. It's pretty cool. Just in case you're wondering, you could probably do this reentry without a heat shield. But it's good practice, because you're going to heat shields later on. So it's just good practice to remember to always have a heat shield. And it doesn't really have that much mass, so it doesn't affect the performance of your rocket that much. Okay, when we get close to the water, we click space to activate our parachute, then add a 1 kilometer. It inflates, fills up, and we're going slow enough. We can jettison the heat shield. Use T to turn off SAS, because it's not needed anymore. And we splash down perfectly. We could make Jebediah EVA. He can't EVA while physical time warp is on. Which is why it said EVA unavailable for a little bit right there. You can like hang on. Whoa. The jetpacks aren't powerful enough for a Kerbal on Kerbin. See, look, if he lets go, you can't even turn them on in the water. Shoot, that was stupid. Okay. You can swim too. Yeah, okay. We can just leave this capsule. Why not? First mission. So, as you can see, I didn't recover my capsule. So if I wanted to, I could click this button to warp to next morning, just like it says. And then, like, the sky starts moving. And eventually, becomes morning. Okay, but if we wanted to recover the capsule, we would go to the tracking station. Then in the tracking station, we've got this thing called orbital rockets that splash down at Kerbin. So you can click on it, and there's this recover button, which we could click, but I'm not going to. And if you did, it would have like all the recovery stats and stuff, and it would no longer be there because you recovered it. I should stop talking.